Okay, I think we're safe to start. My name is Derek Ramsey. I am the moderator for the one of the first sessions this morning, which is pulling it all together, how Walsh uses LTI integrations to make their instance of Sakai ECN a one-stop shop for online students. This session is going to be led by Jennifer Laudiana. She has been at Walsh University for nearly 4 years and is the Director of User Support and Classroom Technology. Jennifer serves as the main contact for Sakai. In addition, she manages vendor relationships for tools within Sakai, video conferencing, the help desk, and serves as project implementation manager for new and updated systems on campus. Previously, she was the education and training specialist in information technology services at Case Western Reserve University, served in a variety of roles in administrative computing at the University of Utah, and was the assistant to the director of continuing education at the Cleveland Institute of Art. A note about the session, once Jennifer wraps up her presentation, we'll take the questions at the end. If you have anything, feel free to throw it in chat and we'll come back to it at the end. If you're just listening to the presentation, if you can make sure that you're on mute so we don't get any interference as Jennifer is talking, that'd be great. Jennifer?
Thanks, Derek. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session. As Derek mentioned, I'm going to talk about the LTI integration in Sakai that we use. I am from Walsh University. I am the Director of User Support and Classroom Technology. And just to tell you a little bit about Walsh University, we are located in North Canton, Ohio, in the United States, for any of you who are from out of the country today. It's about an hour south of Cleveland and probably about 2 hours northeast of Columbus. Those are two major cities that aren't too far. And then we're about 2 hours west of Pittsburgh, just to kind of give you an idea if you're not familiar with Ohio. We were founded in 1960, so we're about 50, 60 years old. There's approximately 2,500 to 3,000 students in graduate and undergraduate programs. We do have 3 fully online programs, our MBA, our Masters of Science in Nursing, which has 2 tracks, Family Nurse Practitioner and Nurse Educator, and then also a Masters of Arts in Education. And those you can take everything online. We also are going to be relaunching our Doctorate of Nursing Practice program, which is online as well in the spring. We also have, I call it assorted because they're adult completion programs, but not all of them are fully online. There's 1 or 2 that are hybrid, but they are programs for adults coming back, finishing their bachelor's degree. So we have an organizational development and leadership, corporate communications, which is a hybrid, and a Bachelor's of Business Administration. And then we also have a online RN to BSN for nurses who want to get their bachelor's degree as well. And then we have assorted undergraduate courses through our general education area that feed into some of these programs that are online, but the regular undergraduates can also take those courses. So those are also available. Sakai at Walsh. So we are hosted with Longsight. We have been on Sakai since about 2005, 2006. We're on version 10.7 right now. We'll be upgrading in December to 11.4. Myself and our Director of e-learning manage and work with faculty and students, and I run the help desk at Walsh, so we get a lot of questions. So I do more the technical side of ECN, but every so often I'll have a session for faculty on how to use the tools and how to take advantage of some of the features of Sakai. And then our e-learning director does a lot of the course development and working with faculty. He's also our representative. We are a member of the Quality Matters group for our online courses. And so he also works with faculty to make sure that they fall under those guidelines for Quality Matters. Just so that you know, we call our Sakai instance ECN, the Electronic Course Network. That's what it was named, I guess, many years ago. And I might switch back and forth between Sakai and ECN, but they are the same thing, just so that you know. So a one-stop shop. So one thing that happened this summer is we partnered with a marketing company that is going to market some of our online programs beyond what we can do. So beyond the state of Ohio, beyond our region. And so we needed, we had to work with them. And so we're going to start getting some faraway students. So they're going to be out of the area, out of the state. We needed a way for them to access tools within the course. And then we also have students asking for things. They get kind of tired of having to, they're in ECN, they're doing things for their course, but then they have to go over here and go to this website to upload something, or they have to go to this place and watch a video. And so we found that using this LTI tool, we can actually pull everything together and they can have it all in their course if the instructor's using those tools. So that's the key. The instructor actually has to activate the tools that they want to use. Also, I saw this as a way to also drive faculty to use some of the tools because they can't remember the web address or, you know, where do I need to go to find this? So I've, you know, promoted more with, if you add it to your course, you can click on it, you can search, it'll all be within your class for the faculty as well as the students. So in version 10, I believe LTI, which is Learning Tools and Operability, was in other versions of Sakai, but version 10 seems to be the easiest one to implement with. In the past, we had some things integrated. We had Big Blue Button, we had Turning Technologies clickers, some of those things, but we did have to work with Longsight to get those integrated. So they would show up on the left menu, they would show up in the tools list. The ease of adding LTI tools is opened a new opportunity because we can work directly with the vendor who has this tool and set it up and test it. And then we usually don't need to have any kind of a programming or technical side from Longsight, which gives us a little more independence that way. Most software tools have LTI capability. You just need to check and see if they work with Sakai. I tried a tool that said it worked with Canvas, and so it did work, but not quite right. So there might be some little tweaks, but the vendor needs to provide the LTI capability. And they're very simple to add in Sakai, so I'll kind of walk you through how I do that. And then if we have some time at the end, I'll open a course for you and we can look at how they work. I can click through just so you can see kind of a live demo at the end. I keep saying how easy it is, but I think it's really easy because I'm not a programmer, I'm not technical. The vendor who provides the LTI will give you the URL, a secret, and a key. Those are the three things you'll need. Then you enter that information into the administrative interface, the external tools, and the LTI interface in Sakai. We test and tweak it with the vendor. Sometimes you might find, oh, I need to have another setting. There's a second parameter I need to add, and we work with them, and then you're done. So there's no programming, there's no super technical skills. The only thing you would need is to be the administrator of your Sakai instance because it is part of the administrative site in Sakai. I mentioned, so to get there, if you are an administrator, you would be on your administrative site. On the bottom left menu, there's an item that says External Tools, and then you click the button at the top that says Tools Available in the System, and then there's a button a link on the right that says Add LTI 1.1 Tool, and I think that's what it says in 10. I believe in 11, it might say 2.2 or 2.1, but either way, that's where you can add your tool. So to give you kind of a little overview of the interface, when you get into that, you'll have a form, and I think there's 3 screenshots divided up so that they were big enough for you to see. So the first thing is your site ID. So there's 2 things you can do here. One of them is if you leave it blank, it'll be a global tool, so anybody can use it. If you put a specific site ID in here for your site, then only those using that site faculty can select that tool. Most of ours are all global because, you know, they're all things that anybody would want to use. We have one exception with licensing, which is in our nursing program. In the MSN program for the family nurse practitioner, they have a class that is does a physical, and they have access to some videos through Elsevier, and we can only use them for their class. So I actually go in and put in those courses and activate them on their site for them. The second one is required, so you need to give the tool a title. So this is what would show up in your list of tools when the user picks them. You can also allow that to be changed. If you want the person selecting the tool to be able to change the title, you can allow that or not allow that. The next one that's required is the button text, and this is what shows on your left-hand menu when they select it. So you may want to have the actual name of the tool. For example, we use the EBSCO Curriculum Builder from the library as one of our integrations. And in the tool title, I call it EBSCO Curriculum Builder, just so that the faculty know that's what they're getting. But for the button text, I've defaulted it to reading lists, and then the faculty can change that if they want to. But basically, so the student knows if they click on that, they're going to get a reading list of information there. So you can allow the faculty or the site administrator to change that, and that's in this setting here. The description area, you can describe your tool, so that will show up on your list of tools, and underneath it'll say what it is. So maybe you have a tool that's specific for science or engineering courses, and you want to allow it and let anybody use it, but you want to be clear, you know, this tool is usually used for, you could put that information there, and if they're going to select it, then they would know what that is and have a better idea. And then at the bottom here, you can actually enable and disable. So maybe a tool is not going to be used anymore, or maybe you don't have a license to that software. You can just disable it and eventually remove it from your LTI interface. So the next section, I have three things in red. Those are the three I mentioned: the URL, the key, and the secret. And those are the most important thing to put in. I always make sure I get these three things in despite anything else. They're not required fields, but when we're working with LTI, this is what all of our vendors have used. So you can stealth a tool. So if you temporarily want to make it unavailable to everyone, but maybe you need to use it, you can stealth it. You also will put the launch URL here. So this is the URL that when the student or the faculty member clicks on it, that's where it's going to go. And then I always say do not allow to change, because I don't know why they would change it, but I don't want them to change my URL. The launch key, so these are your credentials. So when you click on that URL, it's going to open a new window, or it'll actually open in the same window, depending on how you've set that up and how the vendor has it work. So the key and the secret are actually your credentials to cross you over. So again, I don't allow these to be changed. I'm not sure why you would allow them to be changed, but these three items I put in, and they're always static. I've never had to change one at all. I did have a system yesterday that wasn't working, and I contacted the vendor, and later it was working. So I don't know if something got turned off on their side, or something was wrong, but then it was working okay. But I've never had to change the URL, the key, or the secret once I've gone live with the tool. I may have had to tweak them, like maybe the key didn't work and they send me a new key, but I've never had to change them while I'm using it. The frame height is optional. If it opens in a new frame, you can set the height. I don't usually set this, I just let it launch on its own. And then at the bottom here are the privacy settings. So depending on your tool, you may or may not need to send the username or the email address to the vendor. I know for our Zoom integration, we have to send the email address because that's how they've set up our instance of Zoom. It uses your email address as your username. I believe another tool that we have uses the username only. So you may need to send those to the vendor or not, and they'll give you that information when you're setting it up. So the last section is the services. So again, these are all optional to fill out. If you need it to return grades, for example, I know the task stream interface will allow us to have items evaluated and return a grade to ECN. We don't use it that way, but it does allow that. So you could check that box, allow external tool to return grades. You can provide the whole roster. You can allow it to store setting data or access your lessons API. And normally I don't have to check any of these at all. We're not using them to return grades or anything right now. And then the last two are how you want it to launch. So if you want it to launch in a pop-up, it'll pop up out of your instance of Sakai. I have never launched, and I let it launch how it wants to. Most of the time, it'll launch in a new window, so a new tab on your browser, especially if it's an external vendor. I know Zoom does. I know that our Barnes & Noble app does. And then the last section is the debug, which you may want to turn this on when you're first setting it up so you can look for errors and problems and then turn it off. But I never launch it once it's in production in the debug mode. And then the last two items are optional. There are some custom parameters. So if your vendor wants you to set these, you can put them in this box here. I think I only have one, and I can't recall which one, that has a custom parameter that allows it to work with Chrome. And there's a little line in there. And otherwise, I've not had any custom parameters that I've had to put in. And then the bottom one is the splash screen. So if you want to customize what comes up while they're waiting for the application to open, you could put that in there. So if you have something that you realize, this takes like, 3 seconds to open, which doesn't seem very long, but nowadays it seems like an eternity. So you can actually put something in there that comes up. There is a default that'll come up and it'll say launching in a new window, or something like that. But if you want to customize that, you can. And then you can just save at the bottom and you're good to go and you can test it out. So here are some of the tools we've integrated. I've talked about them, so I thought I would give you a list just to see what we've used it for. Atomic Learning, which is now called Who Knew It, has a video series. So it's very much like lynda.com. And so what we do is we've integrated it so that instructors can use those as supplemental learning. They can require students to use them. I teach Excel, so I often link the Excel tutorial in there, and I actually go through and choose what is being taught in my Excel class because I teach beginning Excel. I have an instructor who also uses a lot of Adobe products, and so she will insert the Adobe tutorials for the different things she's using depending on which course. Or if she's teaching a course and she knows that they should be able to do Photoshop, but if they need a refresher, she'll also put the videos there. This fall, we actually started using Barnes & Noble College's purchasing books for students. So the instructor can put a link in their course to purchase the book. And if they click it, it takes them right to the book and the Barnes & Noble site, and they can click on it and purchase it and go right from there. The student does need an account, which uses their email address. That's the only caveat. But if they don't have one, it'll actually pop up and ask you to create one. And then the next time they go in, it'll know who they are. We are currently working on the textbook adoption for faculty. That one we tried to get up and we had a couple of issues, but faculty has started adopting textbooks here for spring, so we'll get that one up and running. I mentioned the EBSCO host from the library. This is the curriculum builder, and this allows the instructor to assign ebooks and videos right in the course. So we do have a course that the instructor teaches an economics course, and he assigns a ebook about the Great Depression. It's called, I think, The Great Depression, a Diary. I have it in one of my examples. And then the student doesn't have to find the book, buy the book. They can click on it. They can read it online. There's a PDF version that they can pull down, so they have it on their tablet or their computer. So that makes it really nice. We also have a computer science instructor who, when he found out he could do this, he really likes it because he's assigned readings from it in some other books that are in the library as supplement to his computer science networking and telecommunications course material. Turning technologies, if you use clickers in your classroom, they have set up the registration piece to be an LTI integration with Sakai. So what the student can do is click on the link, it'll have them go in, it'll register them because it'll pull in their email address, and it will set it up, and then they can click through their account, register, and then on the other side of that, if the instructor clicks that link, they will see all the students in their class and if they've registered their clicker. So that's kind of nice. TaskStream, I mentioned earlier, we use TaskStream for assessment, and a lot of we use it a lot for general education. So that's all over the board. So we have chemistry, nutrition, psychology, theology, sociology, English, math. And so depending on what we're assessing, those instructors can actually put a TaskStream link in their course, and then the student can upload the assignment for their class. They can click the TaskStream link. It'll cross over, it'll open TaskStream for them if they've registered. If not, it will ask them to register. And once they go through that, it'll keep taking them through into TaskStream. So it's just a one click. In the past, they've had to go into our portal, click on TaskStream, register, set all that up. Then later, they could just go to taskstream.com, but they had to remember their username and password and get in. And this way, all that stuff was made a lot more seamless for them. And especially with our online courses coming, that will be part of the programs that we've sent to the new marketing group. That will be nice because those students will be online and they may or may not be here, and it'll be really easy for the instructor to say, click the TaskStream link, follow the instructions. We have integrated Zoom video conferencing. One of the things we've noticed is the instructor has to have an account for it to work. Once they have theirs, it'll work, but they have to launch the meeting first before the students can get in. So it doesn't let you really schedule a meeting in Sakai. So I'm going to have to work through some of our beta instructors and see how they're using it. I know a few of them are using it outside of Sakai, but we're going to work through that a little bit. And I mentioned the Elsevier videos for nursing courses earlier. Those are videos they can watch on how to do physicals on every part of the body. So there'll be one that's head and neck, and there's one that's, heart and lung, and they can go through and rewatch these videos. So when they're learning how to do those exams in our nursing practitioner program, they have easy access to that within their course. So I wanted to kind of walk through some screens, and then like I said, at the end, if there's a little bit of time, I can walk through and go into a course for you, but I wanted to make sure in case I didn't, I had some examples. So this is a demo course that I have. You'll notice on the left-hand side, I have 5 different items. This is what the tools will look like. So if an instructor goes into Site Info, Edit Tools, and then goes to the bottom, we have them go to the bottom of the list and click Plugin Tools, and then they actually will then choose from there. There's another way to do it through external tools, but we've already kind of trained our faculty to add tools using the Site Info Edit tool, so we've done that. So if they add any tools, they will show up on the left. They'll be kind of signified with this green arrow that lets them know that it doesn't have a nice icon, but kind of flags those tools. So this is the atomic learning. So the left side is what the instructor sees. So if an instructor adds it to their course, they click on it, they get a search box, and they can type in what they want. So they can type in Excel 2016. bunch of the videos come up. You can choose which video you want, and then it will appear like it does on the left, and they can check what they want the students to watch. So if they want them to watch it all, they can check it all. If they know that certain things aren't part of their course, for example, in my course, I would not check H and I because we don't do that in my beginning class, and we don't work with that as much. So I would uncheck those and check all the other things. On the right-hand side is what your student will see when they click on it. So they click Atomic Learning. They get a list just like this, little play buttons. They can see how long they are. They can click on it. It'll play right in the same window. They can watch the video. When they're done watching it, it gives them a green check mark so they know that they've finished watching it. Now, if they finish everything and you've selected it to go to the grade book, it actually will set up a thing and it'll check off that they were in the grade book as well. That's kind of a nice tool as well. This is the EBSCO Curriculum Builder. And the top one is when the instructor adds this, they will come in and they can click See Current Reading List or Create Reading List. And then they can search the curriculum builder, all the items that they have. And once they've set that up, so the bottom part, this is the one I was talking about, the Great Depression example. So what you can see as an instructor, though, is you can go in and see 2 students have accessed it. You can click on the arrow and see what students have accessed the readings. You can also go in and add instructions for your students. So maybe you want them to only read pages, 100 to 120. Maybe you want them to pull an exercise from a book. They want them to watch a video. You can put instructions in. You can add other resources. And then here at the bottom, you can see that the students have clicked this reading. And when you click on that, it will show you how much they've read. So you can see. So it's a nice tool because you can tell if students have used it. And I know for a fact the computer science instructor looks at that because he does quizzes. So he'll look at it before class, so he kind of knows, well, these people didn't watch it, so I'm curious how they'll do on the quiz. So that's a really nice tool, and it's all within the course, so the students can get to it, the instructor can get to it. The instructor can go in and add and delete from the reading list as well using that tool. And then this is the student view. So when they click on it, they just see the list of everything they have to read. And they can click on it and see the text, start reading. So that's the student view of the books that they get. I mentioned Barnes & Noble. So we have Barnes & Noble College, and they do have a LTI integration. So this one's from my class. So if they click on the link in my class that says purchase books, it will take them over. If they have an account, it'll take them right over, and it'll show them the book for the class. And then they can select the format, put it in their cart, buy it, get shipped to them. One nice thing about this for online students is a lot of times our graduate students are not full-time. So they might only take one class at a time, one every 8 weeks, or two a semester. And then they can order the book as they move forward. So if they're taking 2 classes, we have 8-week sessions, they can take an 8-week class and they can take another 8 weeks. So they can order the first book and then order the next book. So they can do it separate and not have to order them all at the same time at the beginning of the class. TaskStream, I mentioned, it actually opens a new tab and opens the whole thing for you. It will prompt you for registration. So if you're a new student, you can actually go through and fill out the registration and not have to go anywhere else. This is just an example. It tells me it opened in a new window so that the student knows to look for another tab. In some browsers, it'll blink that there's a new window at the top, so you know, oh, it opened and I can click on it. And then here's the Elsevier videos. So when the student clicks on that, they go right to this, and then they can click on the series and start working their way through that series for nursing, which I mentioned are specific to the Nursing 614, which is the Family Nurse Practitioner track. I mentioned Zoom video conferencing. The instructor needs to have an account. it launches Zoom outside of ECN. So it'll launch it just like it did for you today. If you've never used Zoom and you clicked on that link, it does a bunch of things, opens a browser, opens a tool, downloads, does stuff. It does that same thing if you've never had it before. And then the instructor does need to launch the meeting. I don't know why I put sometimes, but they do need to launch the meeting, and then the students can get into the meeting. And it actually will tie up to your meetings in your account. I apologize, I hit the chat, and so I was kind of distracted there for a second. So that's just how we use LTI. Are there any questions? I see quite a few in the chat.
Yeah, I'll try to scroll through some of them, Jennifer. One of the first ones is from Adam. He's wondering, are all of Walsh's LTI tools configured using external tools, or do you have some configured via the XML file?
All of them are LTI, except I think Derek respond us and turn it in. We have, I think, have to be set up, but otherwise everything else is LTI tools unless they're the ones delivered.
Yeah, I believe most of them are configured via the external tools. I think one thing that Adam was bringing up is some instructors do not like, or faculty don't like that the LTI tools appear when you go to Site Info, Edit Tools, or Manage Tools, that it's under the plugins area. Makes it a little bit hard to find. And one thing that I mentioned is, you know, it's not a complete resolution, but there's a property that can be set so that plugins area is open by default. So the instructor can just scroll right through, given they're not in alphabetical order because it's falling at the end of the plugin section, but it's open by default so they can keep scrolling to see those additional tools that are available via LTI.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yep.
And then in our example, we've used that because we've our faculty are used to going to that edit tools and checking and unchecking tools. So we just have them go there instead of clicking on the external tools option.
Okay. And Laura asked, can readings be ordered in EBSCO?
No, you have to go through our library to order the readings. But the EBSCO is only what we already have. So they can scroll through what already is there. But if they need to order them, they need to order through our library. And that might be something you can check with them. We just don't have it set up that way with our library.
Okay. And not ordered, but sequenced is what Laura.
Oh, sequenced. I believe you can. I only know of a couple instructors, and they usually only have one. But I think you can sequence them in order. Okay. I'll check on that.
Okay. For your integration with Zoom, have you tried enabling join before host in the meetings?
I have not. We'll try that.
Okay.
Does that help with, I don't know who had that question.
Yeah, that was Harold. If anybody's muted, if you need to ask a question, if you can unmute yourself, for some reason you can't, type it in chat and we'll watch.
So join before meeting. And then I'll check on a plugin setting.
Harold mentioned that.
Oh, that should resolve the problem. Yep. Well, Harold, I might get in touch with you then. Because that would be great if we could do that. Make it a little more friendly.
Jennifer, can you hear me? This is Laura Geckler.
Hi, Laura.
Hi. I'm so glad you did this session. I've been thinking about LTI tools and especially about library integrations. We haven't done Elsevier or EBSCO, and you're giving me the courage to go have those talks.
Well, I'm glad. So that's always my first question with a new vendor. Do you have an LTI tool? Do you work with Sakai? So, we actually did just start using the IDEA evaluations that are online. And so I think in the spring, we're doing a pilot right now. In the spring, we will probably consider putting those into ECN as well and linking those. And I believe they have an LTI integration too. Are there any other questions? If you think of anything later, I have my email address and my phone number there. So if you want to give me a call or shoot me an email, if you want to have a talk about it, or if you want to see a demo of how the tools work that we have, or talk about it, that would be great.
Had another question. Is LTI tool support any default meeting tool like Big Blue Button or Zoom? Yep, there you go. Laura answered. Thanks,
Okay.
Thanks, Laura.
Gotcha. There you go. Thanks, Laura. And I see any feedback from students about the LTI tools. We don't really get a lot of feedback, but usually silence is good at our institution. So they, I think once they're there and they use them, they actually like that. And our vendor that's working with us for the marketing those 4 programs, they actually have asked about what we have, and they were pretty excited that we had so many things we can integrate into our LMS. So when they're coaching their students and they are marketing to students, they can use that as well, because they said, well, that way they have like a one-stop shop and they can just go in and work with it. Laura, marketing to students. Yes, I send out a lot of information to students. We did an informal survey and our students prefer flyers. I just refuse to use that much paper. So I have started sending them out less frequently, and they seem to respond more. So we send something out at the beginning of the semester, the mid-semester for midterms, and then I'll send something out for finals. And it just reminds them, if there's anything new, I like to tell them, you know, remember that you can use, we're an Office 365 school, that you can use OneDrive and it will save your paper as you go. And if your computer crashes, it's okay. And just send them some of those reminders as they get geared up for finals too.
So Jennifer, you're not marketing LTI tools to them, right? Or are you?
Yeah, I do if I can. Like TaskStream we did. We let them know that it was there, and if your course is being evaluated, your instructor can add it. And they actually come to us like that. They'll call the help desk and say, I'm supposed to do this, and it says it'll be here, and it's not. And I'll say, let your instructor know, and I will contact the instructor and tell them how to do it if they don't know how.
Oh, pressuring the instructor through the students.
Yeah. I'm kind of mean that way, I guess. But there are students, even though they're not taking an online course, they expect our instance to be open, and they expect their gradebook to be used in particular. So if an instructor does nothing else with ECN, a lot of them use the gradebook. And then they'll start putting more things in. They'll use assignments. They'll start using a little bit of tests and quizzes. And even though they're teaching in class, the students have just become so used to using it that they pressure the faculty to use it.
Okay, we have about a minute left. Does anybody have any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And if you have any questions, I did upload the slides, so if you want to take a peek later, you can, to refresh your memory.
Yep, and just so everyone is aware, I'm sure it'll be sent on an email. All sessions are recorded and they'll be available. Probably take a week or so for Wilma to get all those up on the YouTube channel. But any of the sessions today, they'll all be recorded for your review at a later time. All right, thanks everyone.
Great, thanks.